Fury and urgency burned fiercely in Equai's eyes. Under the ceaseless assault of the four symbol puppets, his skin had already flushed a deep crimson, veins pulsing beneath it. With a thunderous roar, he suddenly leapt skyward, gathering all his strength to break free from the encirclement by force. The moment he rose into the air, the pressure of the azure radiance surging from the Xuanwu puppet's mouth intensified sharply, while the flames spewing from the vermilion bird puppet's beak grew even more scorching and violent. Equai's brows knit together, yet he did not slow in the slightest, determined to escape and stop the resurrection of the holy remains. At that instant, Shashin swept his sleeve through the air. A streak of golden light shot forth, transforming into an armored puppet wrapped in dazzling golden lightning. The puppet stood nearly 10 feet tall, its entire body encased in heavy golden armor, even its face hidden behind a thick visor. It bore no weapon, only a massive golden shield more than 5 feet tall. The golden puppet sprang upward at once, then crashed down like a falling mountain toward the rising Equai. "Out of my way!" Equai bellowed, hurling a punch forward. The puppet braced itself, driving all its weight into the shield. A booming clang echoed like a colossal gong being struck, and strange sound waves burst forth from the shield. Each wave grew louder and more powerful than the last, surging outward like relentless tidal waves battering the shore. Overwhelming force surged back through Equai's arm, his body shuddering violently as he was forced back down to the ground. The shield-bearing puppet was also hurled away by the impact, spinning uncontrollably through the air. Yet in the same breath, a golden figure appeared within the formation of the four symbol puppets, moving freely as if untouched by their restraining power. It arrived at Equai's side in a flash. The moment Equai landed, he threw another punch, blasting apart the corrosive dragon's breath and slicing wind blades before him. The golden figure dodged with ease, then abruptly appeared above his head. It was another golden puppet, far smaller than the first, standing barely 3 feet tall. Sparse pieces of golden armor covered only vital areas of its body, and in its hands it wielded a massive golden sword longer than itself. The sword plunged straight down toward Equai's crown. Equai spun around instantly, punching upward as radiant starlight erupted from his fist. The small golden puppet withdrew its blade and hid completely behind it, using the sword as a shield. Though it was blasted flying by the force, the shield-bearing puppet had already returned, stepping in to restrain Equai once more. The sword-wielding puppet leapt onto the larger puppet's shoulder, and the two moved as one, their coordination flawless. "You will all pay for this," Equai roared. He pressed his index and middle fingers to his forehead, and a crimson flame-shaped symbol flared into existence on his glabella. "He's about to use a blood-incinerating secret art. Everyone, be careful!" Shashin shouted in alarm. Han Li instinctively prepared to enter the battle, but hesitated as his gaze flicked toward the holy remains, which were still greedily absorbing blood from the lake. A heavy thump resounded around Equai. All of his profound acupoints ignited at once, glowing blood red instead of white. His skin darkened to a deep crimson, swollen veins writhing like worms across his body. His aura surged explosively, a shroud of bloody mist forming around him and pushing back the suppressive force of the four symbol puppets. He shot upward again. But before any of the puppets could intercept him, he deliberately slammed back down, planting his feet in a horse stance. A heaven-shaking explosion erupted. The entire underground cavern quaked violently as the ground around Equai shattered, colossal boulders blasting outward in every direction. In an instant, all rocks within several thousand feet were pulverized into countless fragments that whistled through the air like deadly shrapnel. The four symbol puppets were caught off guard and forced backward, their bodies collapsing piece by piece. The sword-wielding puppet immediately hid behind the shield-bearing one, which was sent flying backward as it braced itself. Waves over 100 feet high surged across the lake of blood, roaring toward the holy remains. Han Li frowned slightly. All 475 of his profound acupoints lit up as he thrust both fists forward, unleashing a dense barrage of fist projections that tore through the incoming blood waves. After a brief moment, the chaos finally subsided. The cavern's ceiling had been completely destroyed, exposing the night sky above. Han Li stood with clenched fists, sweeping his gaze across the battlefield. The four symbol puppets had been utterly annihilated, and the two golden puppets had vanished without a trace. Suddenly, he spotted a slender figure half buried beneath the rubble. The black veil had fallen from her face, revealing stunningly beautiful features. It was Violet Spirit. Han Li rushed to her side, clearing away the debris and lifting her gently into his arms. She was unconscious, her lower abdomen crushed by falling stone. Her brows were tightly furrowed in pain, blood trickling from the corner of her lips. Remorse stabbed deeply into Han Li's heart. Had he trusted his instincts and recognized her sooner, perhaps she would not have suffered so grievously. With that thought, he leapt across the lake of blood, arriving beside Mistress Lu Hua. He gently set Violet Spirit down, fed her a pill, and said softly, "Please take care of her for me." Mistress Lu Hua nodded grimly, while Gu Qianshun watched Violet Spirit with complicated emotions. Shi Chuangkong, though freed from his restraints, was badly injured and unable to fight. Han Li then returned to the opposite shore. Ahead lay a massive crater, at whose center stood Yi Kuai, his skin now a purplish red. He held Kun Yu by the throat as he strode toward the lake of blood. Kun Yu's dantian was shattered beyond repair. He was already dead. Everything unfolded exactly as I planned, yet you became the one variable, Yi Kuai said coldly. From the weeping blood array onward, you've ruined me time and again. I truly admire someone like you. Had you not interfered with the holy remains, I might even have taken you as my disciple. Unfortunately, you must die today. He casually flung Kun Yu's corpse aside. It smashed into a distant cavern wall and shattered into fragments. I'm honored by your regard, City Lord Yi, Han Li replied icily. The instant his words ended, he activated the wing form ascension arts to their limit and vanished. A cold sneer crossed Yi Kuai's face. He punched toward a certain direction, his strike empowered by the blood-incinerating secret art. A deafening boom echoed, yet his fist did not strike Han Li. It collided with the golden shield of the shield-bearing puppet. The shield's surface rippled like water, releasing layered sound waves that surged back toward Yi Kuai. Using its opponent's strength against him, the puppet neutralized much of his terrifying power, bringing the clash to a tense stalemate. The sword-bearing golden puppet slipped out from behind its shield-wielding counterpart like a nimble golden macaque, springing high into the air before hacking viciously toward Yi Kuai's neck. Its golden blade was densely studded with star acupoints, and in an instant, all of the contained star power erupted outward. A blazing aura flared, forming a jagged, serrated edge along the sword. Yet as the blade descended, its surging star power collided head-on with the crimson mist enveloping Yi Kuai's body. Sparks burst in every direction, accompanied by a shrill metallic screech, but the sword failed to cut through the blood-red veil in the slightest. Yi Kuai snorted coldly and pulled his fist back from the golden shield. As he punched forward again, the muscles of his right arm swelled grotesquely, brimming with explosive force. His fist smashed into the shield once more, causing its star acupoints to flash wildly as they struggled to neutralize the impact. Yi Kuai dipped low, avoiding the rebounding force, and used the momentum to fling the sword-wielding puppet away. Without pause, he hammered the shield a third time with his right fist, then followed with a thunderous left punch before the shield could fully react. A storm of blows rained down, and after only a few breaths, the golden shield shattered with a heaven-splitting roar, sending the puppet behind it hurtling backward. Yi Kuai staggered several steps, digging his feet into the ground to steady himself. At that very moment, Han Li descended from above, drifting through the violent shockwaves as lightly as a leaf caught in a gale. He drove his heavenly baleful purgatory arts to their limit, igniting all 475 profound acupoints, and hurled a punch straight down toward the crown of Yi Kuai's head. Starlight wrapped around his fist, forming a dazzling white projection radiating terrifying might. Though Yi Kuai had been watching Han Li closely, he still failed to anticipate this perfectly timed strike. With no chance to defend, he could only twist aside, letting the blow graze past his head before slamming squarely into his shoulder. The earth beneath him exploded, rocks blasting outward as his body was knocked sideways and buried under the debris. Han Li did not relent, continuing to pound the ground mercilessly. Each strike deepened the collapse, dust billowing skyward as both men vanished into an ever-growing crater forged by Han Li's fists. Suddenly, a deafening boom erupted. Han Li was flung upward from the pit, landing outside it, while Yi Kuai burst out in pursuit a heartbeat later. Yi Kuai's body was covered in blood and wounds, yet all were superficial. Still, the humiliation of being battered so relentlessly filled him with fury. He sneered at Han Li. "So you've cultivated the heavenly baleful purgatory arts as well. No wonder you've achieved so much. Which statue do you possess?" Han Li, now certain that Yi Kuai practiced the same art at a far deeper level, spat out a mouthful of blood. "And which statue do you have? City Lord Yi?" The devilish lord scattered the 4 statues. "I only obtained 2, Yi Kuai replied coldly. "That means you hold either the first or the 4th. Both would fit nicely in my collection. How about an exchange?" Han Li proposed suddenly. Kuai laughed. "Is this really the moment for jokes, fellow Taoist Li?" Before he finished speaking, the ground beneath him shattered. A golden figure shot up and seized him from behind, the shield-bearing puppet, now missing its shield. Mechanical clicks rang out as its body split apart, closing over Yi Kuai like a golden coffin etched with profound runes. At the same time, the sword-bearing puppet burst from the earth, discarded its blade, and leapt onto the sarcophagus, its body also disassembling and fusing with the other. "Die, traitorous scum!" Shashin's desperate roar echoed from afar. Blinding white light erupted from the runes, and the 2 golden puppets detonated in a cataclysmic explosion. The roar was like a newborn sun igniting the night, flooding the land with radiance. Han Li had already retreated, and now shielded his eyes from the searing light and shockwaves. When the dust finally settled, a vast black crater lay ahead. Yi Kuai stood at its center, naked and unscathed, his skin now a glossy, gleaming black rather than scorched. The red mark on his glabella had turned pure white. He laughed eerily, then vanished without warning. A thunderous crash sounded in the distance as Shashin's body was hurled skyward. Yi Kuai caught her in an instant and unleashed a storm of punches, smashing her down like a discarded doll. Her fate was unclear. Han Li's expression darkened. "He's even faster and stronger now." "It's your turn," Yi Kuai said, his altered voice chilling to the bone. Han Li leapt back at once. Yet Yi Kuai still closed the distance in a blink, bloodshot eyes blazing with madness. He punched straight at Han Li's chest. Han Li activated both his heavenly baleful purgatory arts and his bloodline power. His arms swelled massively, forming a solid barrier. A strange new force stirred within them, unlike anything he had felt before. Before he could reflect further, devastating power crashed into his guard. His bones barely held as he was blasted backward, carving a colossal trench through the land before slamming into a cliff and being buried beneath rubble. His arms throbbed numb, but no bones were broken. Burning through blood essence and star power, Yi Kuai pressed the attack, determined to finish quickly. The rubble was pulverized in an instant as a giant mountain ape emerged, swinging a massive golden fist at him. Yi Kuai met it head-on. The collision shook the heavens, and the resulting force forced even him back, shock flickering across his face. Han Li, however, cried out in pain as well and was flung away. The ape landed, transforming into a lightning bird that beat its wings furiously and fled at top speed. "You won't escape," Yi Kuai roared. The moment Yi Kuai's final words faded, his body surged forward like black lightning, reappearing before Han Li as if he had torn through space itself, one clawed hand reaching straight for Han Li's throat. Yet Han Li had already foreseen this strike. He halted abruptly, slipping just beyond the grasp before retreating toward the blood lake at a speed far greater than before. As he neared the lake, Han Li reverted to human form, with Yi Kuai pursuing relentlessly. A cold sneer curved Yi Kuai's lips. "You truly are full of tricks." Instead of retreating further, Han Li advanced. He circulated the heavenly baleful purgatory arts in full, merging them with the giant mountain ape and Xuanwu bloodlines. One arm swelled grotesquely, golden fur spreading across it, while azure bone armor formed along the back of his hand. Starlight gathered around his clenched fist as it collided with Yi Kuai's punch in a deafening explosion. Agonizing pain tore through Han Li's arm. Yet he was only forced back a single step, and Yi Kuai was likewise driven back. Even Han Li was startled by the terrifying strength born from the fusion of his arts and bloodlines. For the first time, Ikwai's gaze grew solemn as he truly acknowledged his opponent. He drifted forward like a wraith, translucent light coating his arm as he threw another punch, seemingly gentle, yet swift beyond perception. Caught off guard, Han Li hurriedly invoked his Xuanwu bloodline to defend. Before the azure bone armor could fully form, the blow struck, sending him flying across the blood lake. Waves surged skyward as he crashed heavily onto the ground beside Violet Spirit. Ikwai did not pursue. Instead, he strode to the lake's center and gazed upon the body resting atop the crystal slab. Reminiscence, resentment, and indignation flickered through his eyes as he thrust his hand toward the corpse's chest. Instantly, the slab's patterns ignited, erupting with dense crimson light that forced his hand back. At that same instant, a thunderous boom erupted from the far shore as Han Li charged again. All 475 profound acupoints within him shone brilliantly as he drove his heavenly baleful purgatory arts and true spirit bloodlines to their limits. Phantom projections of true spirits appeared behind him one after another, merging back into his body, his aura soaring skyward without any outward transformation. Mistress Lu Hua watched with quiet approval, while Gu Qianshun and the others stared in shock. Sensing the change, Ikwai abandoned the holy remains and retreated 10,000 feet in a flash before lunging back toward Han Lai. Devilish power erupted from him. Horns sprouted from his brow, vertebrae pierced through his flesh, and murky crimson mist reeking of blood enveloped his body as his speed climbed even higher. Only blurred after images remained as the two collided. White starlight and crimson mist crashed together, grinding against one another as violent power tore spatial rifts across the sky. Then, from the lake's edge, a thunderous roar sounded as a new surge of strength burst from Ikwai's fist. Already at his limit, Han Li was blown away in an instant, blood spraying from his mouth. A colossal crimson fist projection slammed into him, hurling him like a cannonball into the depths of the blood lake. Ikwai followed, descending like a falling star, unleashing a storm of punches. The lake trembled violently as its blood level plummeted, yet Han Li was nowhere to be seen. Despair crossed Shi Chuankong's face. Gu Qianshun turned away, unable to watch. Mistress Lu Hua sighed deeply, and even Violet Spirit stirred faintly in her unconsciousness. At the lake's bottom, Han Li felt as though mountains were crashing down upon him without pause. His bones felt shattered, his body unable to evade or defend, and his consciousness began to slip away. His true extreme film had long since broken, leaving him fully exposed to Ikwai's merciless blows. So this is the end. At that moment, a voice echoed within his mind. Fellow Taoist Li. It sounded like Taoist Qi, yet unfamiliar. Han Li tried to respond, but could not even muster spiritual sense. Do not resist. I will lend you my essential spiritual power. Above, the holy remains upon the crystal slab suddenly opened its eyes. Forming a strange hand seal, it pointed to its own heart, drawing forth a burst of golden light that condensed into a radiant sphere at its fingertip. With a flick, the golden sphere shot into the blood lake like a streaking star. Ikwai raised his hand to intercept it, but the sphere passed through him as if intangible, plunging directly into Han Li's glabella. Immortal spiritual power! Shi Chuankong cried out in shock, while Gu Qianshun stared in confusion. Golden radiance erupted from the lake's depths like a rising sun. Within that light, Ikwai felt his fists slow, as if countless invisible threads bound his body and thoughts alike. A massive golden wheel appeared behind him, radiating time law power that nearly froze him in place. Even so, his terrifying strength allowed him to resist complete immobilization. He turned, attempting to shatter the axis, but Han Li would not allow it. Golden lightning flashed as the azure bamboo cloud-swarm sword burst forth, surging toward Ikwai. At such close range, the blade pierced his lower abdomen in an instant, though it barely breached the outer wall of his dantian. With a thunderous roar, Han Li poured every last drop of immortal spiritual power and physical strength into a single strike, slamming his palm against the sword's hilt. A dull thud echoed as the blade was driven fully into Ikwai's dantian, releasing arcs of golden lightning. A prolonged scream of agony tore from Ikwai as his dantian ruptured, black smoke billowing forth. The darkness of his skin faded as his body staggered backward before collapsing heavily onto the ground. Han Li forced himself upright, dragging his shattered body step by step toward Ikwai. With a grim breath, He drew the azure bamboo cloudswarm sword from Ikwai's dantian, and in a single clean arc severed his head. At that instant, both the mantra-treasured axis and the azure bamboo cloudswarm sword returned to his body of their own accord, no longer able to remain manifested without immortal spiritual power to sustain them. Blood soaked his robes and wounds riddled his flesh, yet a faint smile surfaced as he cast a glance toward Violet Spirit. The strength finally left his legs, and he collapsed heavily onto the ground. Nearby, Mistress Liu Hua, Gu Qianxun, and Shi Chuankong stared in stunned silence. Ikwai is dead? Just like that? Gu Qianxun whispered, disbelief filling her voice. Mistress Liu Hua and Shi Chuankong could only stand frozen. Han Li steadied his breathing, forcing himself upright before closing his eyes. Within him, the golden ball rapidly shrank, and the flow of immortal spiritual power once more ground to a halt. Seizing the brief moment while circulation still lingered, he hastily retrieved recovery pills from his flower branch domain. Nearly all his stock had been exhausted, and the pills within the Scalptia spatial domain were pitiful compared to those from the outside world. After securing enough pills, a sudden thought struck him. He reached into his robes and drew out a black statue amid a flicker of dark light, the relic he had once obtained from Taoist Master Boneshine. By then, the golden ball had completely dissipated, and his immortal spiritual power stagnated entirely. Swallowing a recovery pill, warmth spread through his body as his injuries began to mend. "Are you all right, fellow Taoist Li? You truly never cease to amaze," Shi Chuankong said as he approached. "I'm fine," Han Li replied calmly. He went to Violet Spirit's side, examining her carefully, and felt a surge of relief upon confirming that her injuries were not severe. He then turned to Ikwai's corpse, sweeping it with his spiritual sense, only to find nothing. That discovery made his heart sink. In this domain, storage treasures were unusable, so cultivators carried their valuables on their person. Yet Ikwai bore no pills, no weapons, nothing at all. Han Li's gaze soon settled on a bone ring worn on Ikwai's left hand, faintly glowing with white light. He removed it just as Mistress Liu Hua spoke. "You're perceptive. That ring is a storage treasure I crafted using star power and spatial restrictions. It functions through star power." Han Li glanced at her, then injected his star power and spiritual sense into the ring. A layer of white light resisted him, but it shattered easily under the pressure of star power. His spiritual sense entered, revealing a small space only 20 to 30 feet across, tiny compared to ordinary storage treasures, yet unimaginably precious within the Scalptia spatial domain. Inside lay pills, weapons, beast cores, and scriptures. As he scanned through them, his eyes suddenly blazed with joy. Tucked in a corner were two statues, the remaining heavenly baleful purgatory arts statues. Ecstasy surged through him, though he restrained himself from taking them out to avoid drawing attention. He withdrew his spiritual sense, slipped the ring onto his own finger, and transferred his two statues and the pills he had retrieved into it. At that moment, a burst of crimson light erupted from the nearby lake of blood, coiling around Ikwai's corpse and dragging it into the depths. Han Li gazed toward the holy remains, contemplation flickering in his eyes, just as Shashin slowly regained consciousness. Though her body was shattered, she managed to struggle upright. Almost simultaneously, Violet Spirit opened her eyes. Han Li's expression lit up with unconcealed joy. "Where is Ikwai?" Shashin demanded anxiously, scanning her surroundings. "City Lord Sha, you may rest easy. Ikwai has already been slain by fellow Taoist Li," Mistress Liu Hua replied with a smile. Relief and confusion mingled in Shashin's eyes as she turned to Han Li. But before she could speak, Taoist Xie's authoritative voice echoed from the heart of the lake. "Ikwai is dead. None of you need remain here any longer. All may leave, except fellow Taoist Li." The blood within the lake continued to surge toward the holy remains, which had now fully reformed into flesh and blood. A silver-haired, square-faced, middle-aged man lay there, eyes closed yet radiating regal authority. He resembled Taoist Xie, though not perfectly. "Master! You're alive!" Shashin cried, tears trembling in her voice as she dropped to her knees and kowtowed repeatedly, heedless of her injuries. "I have yet to fully recover and must rest. Fellow Taoist Li alone will suffice to guard me," Taoist Xie said evenly. "Even so, Master, fellow Taoist Li is still an outsider. I should remain to protect you," Shashin said hesitantly. Li and I have been companions for many years. There is no need to doubt his character. Besides, I have another task for you. Daoist Chai's voice faded as he transmitted his words privately. After listening, Shaxin nodded firmly and turned to Han Li. I leave Master in your care, fellow Taoist Li. She moved to depart with Violet Spirit, but Han Li hurriedly called out, City Lord Sha, please wait. Violet Spirit is my friend. I ask that you undo the restrictions placed upon her soul so she may recover fully. A storm of emotions flickered across Violet Spirit's eyes. My apologies, fellow Taoist Li. I nearly forgot, Shaxin exclaimed, striking her forehead. When Violet Spirit first arrived in Puppet City, I feared she might be a spy from Profound City, so I sealed her memories. I'll remove it at once. Forming rapid hand seals, she pressed a finger to Violet Spirit's glabella. Golden light flowed forth, forming intricate runes across her forehead. Violet Spirit's eyes grew dazed, her body sagging, and as she fell unconscious, the golden runes shattered into countless motes of light. Han Li caught her swiftly, then looked to Shaxin. What happened? She's only temporarily unconscious. She'll awaken soon, Shaxin assured him gently, then offered a respectful curtsy toward the middle-aged man before departing with Mistress Liu Hua and Gu Chanxun. Shi Chuankong hesitated, then followed them out. Before long, they emerged from the underground cavern. Shaxin sealed the passageway and sat cross-legged, a faint white light enveloping her, as Mistress Liu Hua and the others waited nearby. After a long pause, Mistress Liu Hua clenched his teeth and stepped forward with Gu Qianshun, bowing deeply. City Lord Sha, my daughter and I have come to pay our respects. There's no need for formality. What is it you wish to say? Shaxin asked calmly. With Yi Kuai dead, it's only a matter of time before you rule the Scalptia spatial domain. I was blinded by greed to ally with him. I beg your forgiveness and pledge my allegiance to Puppet City from this day onward. Mistress Liu Hua said earnestly. I also wish to join Puppet City, Gu Qianshun added, bowing deeply. Shaxin's voice turned cold. You helped Yi Kuai forge countless star artifacts, bringing great harm upon Puppet City. Even if I accept you, how could the others? To atone, I offer detailed knowledge of Profound City's forces and the weak points of its protective array, Mistress Liu Hua replied with a bitter smile. Shaxin's eyes gleamed. Such sincerity would make refusal improper. From this day forth, both of you are citizens of Puppet City. Thank you, City Lord Sha, Mistress Liu Hua said joyfully, bowing once more alongside Gu Qianshun. After overhearing Mistress Liu Hua's exchange with Shaxin, Shi Chuankong stepped forward, cupped his fists, and spoke with measured courtesy. City Lord Sha, may I trouble you for a word? Speak, Shaxin replied calmly. In private, if you please. A keen light flickered through Shaxin's eyes as she assessed him. Shi Chuankong met her gaze with an easy smile. The sharpness ebbed. She nodded, and the two withdrew a short distance from Mistress Liu Hua and Gu Qianshun, their voices sealed within a private transmission. Deep beneath the earth, Han Li bore Violet Spirit to a stretch of level ground and gently set her down. He fed her a restorative pill and sat beside her, standing guard as time slipped by. Nearly an hour later, her brows knit faintly. A soft moan escaped as her eyes fluttered open. How do you feel? Han Li asked, joy bright in his eyes. Her gaze cleared at once. Recognition struck like lightning. She stiffened, then reached out, fingertips tracing his face. Is it truly you? It's me, Han Li said softly, clasping her slender hand. I'm sorry I wasn't with you all these years. They looked upon one another in silence, savoring the warmth of reunion. As Han Li beheld her peerless features, memories surged. Scattered Star Sea, Heaven Void Hall, Umbra Realm, Devilfall Valley, the long road through Great Jin, and the parting after his ascension, fresh as yesterday, distant as a former life. Violet Spirit too seemed lost in remembrance. At last she said quietly, after I ascended, I never knew how long it would take to find you. I never imagined we'd meet again so soon, like this. Fate carried me to the Devil Realm by chance, Han Li smiled. Otherwise, who knows when we'd have reunited? She frowned slightly. City Lord Sha took me to Puppet City after I arrived in the Scalptia spatial domain. Why am I here now? Where is this place? This is the Great Ruins, deep within the Scalptia spatial domain, Han Li explained. After Puppet City, Shaxin sealed your soul. That's why your memories were lost. He then recounted all that had transpired since their first meeting there. When he finished, Violet Spirit smiled faintly. Then it's fortunate City Lord Shah bore me no ill will, otherwise our meeting might never have come to pass. We don't truly know her, Han Li cautioned. Remain vigilant. I will, she agreed. She studied him anew. After I ascended, how did you follow so quickly? With your aptitude, I'd thought it would take longer. You're asking about Big Sister Nangong, she scoffed, eyes rolling. Han Li's embarrassment betrayed him. Before my tribulation, I visited the spirit realm. Azure Origin Palace was well. Big Sister Nangong had reached Grand Ascension and was preparing her own trial. As for me, Fortune smiled, and I ascended early. Relief stirred within Han Li. Violet Spirit then asked, with orthodox human arts, you should have reached the Immortal Realm. How did you end up here? I did ascend to the northern glacial immortal region, he replied. Events thereafter led me to the Devil Realm. Even I know the Devil and Immortal Realms are mortal foes, she said. Yet you seem close with a Night Sun Prince. It's a long tale. Han Li summarized his journey since ascension. Withholding only the heaven-controlling vial, Violet Spirit listened, her expression shifting again and again, moved by his trials, most of all by his resolve to brave the Scalptia spatial domain in search of her. At high zenith already, she sighed. You must have suffered greatly. Perils there were, Han Li smiled lightly, but without them, I wouldn't have advanced so swiftly. In the end, they were blessings. She nodded. What will you do now? I promised fellow Taoist Shay to keep watch while he recovers. Afterward, I'll leave this domain and find my way back to the true immortal realm. He can take us out? She asked, startled. A voice chimed in, amused. Once I recover, I'll draw upon the domain's essence to send you 2 lovebirds away. Violet Spirit flushed crimson. Come with me to the true immortal realm, Han Li said earnestly. With sufficient devilish origin stones, you can cultivate there as well. She fell silent, and he did not press her. After a pause, she asked softly, Brother Han, who matters more to you, me or Big Sister Nangong? Words failed him. At last, he forced a smile. Both you and Waner are dear to me. She searched his eyes in silence. Disappointment flickered, then faded. Men always want more, she sighed. Han Li could only sigh inwardly. I rely on no one, she said at length. I won't change now. You have fearsome enemies. I would burden you. I'll remain in the Devil Realm. You haven't changed, Han Li smiled wryly. What then are your plans? My aptitude pales beside yours, but I seem suited to puppetry, she replied. I'll follow City Lord Shah as her disciple. When fellow Taoist Shai recovers, I'll leave to cultivate here. Then I won't dissuade you, Han Li said. He produced several jade slips, copying for her the first statue's heavenly baleful purgatory arts and 2 suitable devilish methods. Accept these. They'll aid your path. She accepted them in silence, resolve steady in her eyes.